Hello. Thank you for joining this week's call. We are going to be talking about benefits of fatty fish on our call today, as that is the challenge for this week. And let me get that added here. So super excited to discuss that. And also congrats to those of you that have been working on 10,000 steps a day, who have been implementing morning and evening sunlight. Or just getting outside more in the day. I know I was reading through wins and challenges for this week as people submitted points. And I think a lot of people said, like, even if I wasn't perfect on morning and evening sunlight, I have been really prioritizing getting outside a lot more. And I notice a difference. I know I 1000% notice a difference when I'm outside. My mood is elevated. I feel just more calm. Getting outside is so beneficial to our mental health. But then also I've been learning so much more in the past couple of years of how it benefits our internal and physical health. So I'm excited that you are hopefully noticing the benefits from getting outside and prioritizing that morning and evening sunlight. Hopefully you're noticing a difference in your sleep, in your mood, in your energy levels. And if you haven't noticed yet, like, stick with it and really continue those habits in the coming weeks. And my hope is by the end of the 4 weeks, we're all feeling amazing, implementing all these kind of challenging, maybe new habits that can have a really big impact, especially as we come into winter. So this week we are talking about fatty fish, and there was something else. Oh, I was going to announce, since we are having David join our call, and I think he's jumping on shortly, I wanted to announce the winner for last week's challenge for those doing the Elevate Your Everyday at the beginning of the call. So we are giving away a strategy call with our team, and that's valued at $200, and it will include a macro consult. So I think at the end of the Elevate Your Everyday, that would be likely a good time to just kind of reevaluate on macros. So doing the strategy call, maybe after the challenge or end of the year to plan for the new year ahead, would be great timing there. So we will let the winner choose which coach they want to do the strategy call with, any coach on our team. And the winner will be, and we need like a drum roll. Okay, the winner is Carrie Grace. So I don't think that she is on this call, but I'll send out a message to her and let her know she can choose a coach on our team and choose the timing. My suggestion would just be to do it before the end of this year so that you get it done and you can start just planning towards your goals. So, and I don't know if David, hopefully he's joining. Let me just double check. We will get started talking about fatty fish, and then hopefully he can jump on. Okay, I think he's jumping on too. But also, raise of hands on who got Griffin's Coach's Corner email yesterday talking through the benefits of fatty fish in our diet. Anyone? Yay. Okay, good. I see some hands going up. So hopefully that was beneficial, and that's something that you guys can go back to. I thought it was super informative, and she also included some meal ideas. I think for me, that's the hardest part. And I don't know if David will get into that a ton, so I'll talk about that. I think that's the hardest part with fatty fish for me. Like, sometimes I just don't, it's harder for me to implement. Like, it just doesn't sound as good. And so I think finding ways to implement it into your diet is like the hardest part. And it's something I've had to change a lot over time. I've gone from like doing smoked fish to now my favorite is doing canned fish. I love eating canned salmon with dill seasoning on it. I don't know. Do you guys have any other favorites? I'm sending David just really quick on how you like to eat your salmon. I know Henrietta does a lot of raw fish, right?
But also cooked. Like, I grew up with like cooked salmon. That's my, like, from childhood. So I had that for dinner today, for example. And that's something that I'm also like, I will put both salmon and cod. Not that cod is a fatty fish, but just like the fish. We'll just put a big batch, and then you can have it in the fridge for a couple of days. Just heat it up, or I can cook my salmon, and then another day I will just eat it cold. So I will eat it cooked. I eat it for dinner, but maybe the next day I will eat it, and then I will just add some avocado or whatever. And I can eat it just as it is. Like for me, it's more about just getting it in, like just checking it off, basically. So I don't
I'm
think. Yeah.
I agree. I also like fatty fish or fish in general. So I eat it a lot of different ways. But I think for folks that are just not seafood people or not fish people, almost thinking about like, how do you get your kids to eat vegetables can be helpful. Like put it in dishes that are otherwise really delicious, or like things that you're really pumped for. And maybe it's not full servings, but you can add it to a lot of different kinds of stuff. So you're at least getting a little bit every day. So like think casseroles or pasta sauces, or, like even like pizza. Like there's lots of places you can put it in, like kind of sort of hidden if you're just not into fish at all.
Yes. And everyone, welcome David. He joined the call. Looks like you're getting some sunlight.
Yes.
And I feel like it's
And
not
cold.
cold. You're making it look like it's warm, and I know it's not. So
No, it's about 20 degrees.
yeah, I'm actually surprised your computer is working. Or are you on your phone? Is it?
No, it's on a computer. Yeah,
That's
actually it
impressive.
works great. Yeah.
We just got a question on this, and maybe I'll ask you this, David, too, or we can ask the group have you ever heard of anyone having an intolerance to salmon as an adult? I've eaten salmon for years, and recently when I have more than 2 ounces, my stomach is in so much pain after. It's sad. I love salmon, so I'm navigating fatty fish.
The first thing that I would ask is, how is that salmon being cooked? So is it like glazed? Is it plain? It's unlikely that plain salmon will be causing any of that. But if there is whatever your some kind of a marinade, things of that nature, that is the first thing that I would ask, because the salmon or seafood in general won't really cause that, in particular salmon. Now, shellfish is a different thing. Shellfish, you can have an allergic reaction to shellfish. Most often, that tells me a couple things: that your omega-6 index and your cold receptors are understimulated. So most often it's going to be somebody from a warm climate or that never experiences cold and that eats a lot of omega-6 fats. So that's going to be vegetable cooking oils, things of that nature.
Yeah, and I wonder if, Brittany, I would be curious even on how you're cooking it too. Is it always just like grilled, or is it raw, or maybe trying eating it like a different form and seeing if that helps.
Amount of fat at once. Like if it's a larger, 2 ounces is not very large, but like is just like fat content at once of the salmon can disrupt.
That could also, grilled or baked is how she usually cooks it. I would be curious too, about the fat content maybe. I wonder.
Yeah, the easiest way to troubleshoot that is just buy the canned Costco salmon. Like it's just the wild caught salmon from Costco. They come in a 4-ounce serving. Eat half of it or more of it, because they're very lean. So the canned varieties of wild caught salmon will have half as much fat in them as any other.
Oh
So,
yeah, that's a question too. I'm assuming you're eating wild caught, but maybe not. So if you're eating farmed salmon, then is there, like, we've been just discussing this on the team too, like differences between farmed and wild. That could be, part of it too, potentially.
yeah. So any canned salmon in the US will be wild caught. And you will notice that literally in the nutritional label. Any canned salmon, you will notice that it has half the amount of fat. If you go to MyFitnessPal and just type in, a fillet of salmon that's farm raised, it'll have sometimes 3 times as much fat as a wild caught.
So maybe even if she's just starting to grill it or bake it more, like it's causing stomach issues because just the fat content is so high. Yeah. keep us updated, Brittany. Let me know if that helps or if you have any questions on that. And then just rolling right into benefits of fatty fish. I would say like basic kind of information, but then also if you guys have questions, we can get more high level with it too. So wherever you want to start, David, I think would be great. I'll tell you what we're doing for the challenge. We are having them include a serving size of fatty fish daily into their diet. And I think we chose 2 ounces. Is that right? 2 ounces at least per day. So they'll do that this week, which is week 3 of our challenge. Week 1 was getting 10,000 steps a day. Week 2 was getting morning and evening light exposure. And then this week we're doing 2 ounces of fatty fish daily. And these habits will continue forward. And then on the last week, we'll continue all 3 of those habits. And next week we'll be doing cold exposure, 3 to 5 minutes a day, cold shower, cold plunge, or getting outside potentially, but we're not quite there, I think, for most people. So we're sticking to the cold shower and cold plunge for just the sake of this challenge. Next week, 3 to 5 minutes. And so we'll talk more about details on that too. But if we have time at the end, we can kind of discuss a little bit about next week's challenge too, because you're very knowledgeable on both of those topics.
Awesome. As far as the benefits, right? So the benefits are going to be that it is an essential fatty acid that you're going to be getting from fatty fish. Most people kind of understand that, that's why, fish oil pills are popular, or omega-3 pills are popular, but that's not the only benefit, right? The benefit that you get from the actual food, which is something that I really, really reiterate all the time, is that it comes with a whole lot of iodine, selenium, copper, zinc, iron, and B vitamins for the uptake of all of those, right? Everybody kind of knows that. Well, maybe you don't, so I'll kind of go through it. Omega-3 fatty acids form parts of your membranes, okay? In particular, for humans, your brain, your heart, and your digestive tract. Okay, they are crucial for forming that. And then the next most crucial part, which is kind of last, is your skin. So your skin is the last one to get the omega-3s. The first is going to be the brain. Second is going to be heart and cardiovascular system, then the digestive tract. Now, you're going to find them in all cell membranes, including your blood, which is when you get an omega-3 index test, that's what it's doing. You're going to put a little bit of blood on a little sheet. They send it off, and they literally dissect the red blood cell and see how many omega-3s are in that red blood cell. So the number that you get back is a percentage, right? Ideally, something like 8% or higher is what you're shooting for as an omega-3 index. When that happens, that immediately allows all these tissues that I just talked about that have omega-3s to collect more electrical energy, okay? So the electrical energy is going to be coming from the sun. The electrical energy is going to be coming from movement, right? So just moving will create electricity because you have fascia and tendons and ligaments everywhere, and bones. Those are all piezoelectric. So in case you guys didn't know, your bones are growing when you stress them, right? People kind of understand that. When you lift weights, your bones should get a little bit thicker. The way it works is because your bones are electric. You're literally creating electricity, and that electrical magnetic field attracts more calcium to that area to make them thicker. Your tendons and ligaments do the same thing. So those omega-3 in all of these cell membranes are actively collecting electrons from sunlight, from movement, from cold. It essentially upgrades all of your extremities to be a better environmental collector of excess energy, right? That most people don't get this information told to them, but your food really only provides anywhere from 25 to 40% of your actual energy that you need every single day. The other part of that is coming from movement, it's coming from sunlight, it's coming from cold. So if you're lacking all of those, that's how you literally can feel tired all the time, even though you're eating a lot of food and gaining weight, because energy is not free. In other words, food, right? When you digest it, everybody kind of understands that it takes effort for your body to break that down and assimilate it. That energy for that, the input energy, comes from all these other things. sunlight, cold exposure, movement, etc. And that can either be an efficient process or an inefficient process. And a high omega-3 index makes it a more efficient process all the time. Like right now, here's a perfect example. I just ate I ate breakfast several hours ago. I've been outside for a little while and it's sunny outside, so I came outside. I actually am hot. Like my hands are actually red right now. They're giving off heat, even though it's 20 degrees outside. The reason for that is because I have a nice high omega-3 index where a little bit of sunlight goes a long way in giving my body, my mitochondria to be specific, more electrons to create more ATP and more heat. You always want to be creating more ATP, more heat, and more water. And the more water you make, the more heat you can create, and the more ATP you can create. So that's the benefits from the actual omega-3. Bringing that omega-3 to the place where we want, right in the cell membranes, that's where all these other cofactors come into play, particularly copper, B vitamins, and selenium and zinc. Those need to be present at the time of ingesting omega-3s or as you digest these omega-3s so that your body can accurately tell where this needs to go. Think of it like when when you're getting on a plane, there's the people, out in the dark with the sticks, waving the plane around. Like, it's not that the pilot can't see, and it's not that the pilot probably hasn't done this millions of times. It's that it's always goes smoother when there's help, when there's guidance. That's what cofactors are. Cofactors, go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you talk about those cofactors, is that when you're saying like, here's the difference between just taking an omega-3 supplement and eating fatty fish, especially?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So if that doesn't mean that the omega-3 supplement is useless. It's that if it's the only thing that you're using, then it becomes less useful. Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
it's just like any
flip
supplement,
side,
right? It's not going to replace the real thing. Using my
correct.
red light is great. It's not going to replace sunlight. Taking a protein powder is fine. It's not going to replace eating like a high quality beef meal.
Correct.
So, and just kind of goes, there's optimal and there's minimal.
Yeah. And you get started where you can, but eventually
yes.
you want to be eating the fish. Now, if you're like I'm dealing literally with somebody that I'm onboarding here in the next week where his omega-3 index is a 2. It's a 2. He's having a lot of problems, right? Even to the point where he's taking actual hormone replacement therapy. He's actually getting hormones injected and it's not working. The reason,
David, what are common problems when you have a low omega-3 index? Like for those that haven't tested, which is probably most people on this call, what are like some kind of common signs of a low omega-3 index?
Number one, on blood work, it's going to be your HDL is subpar compared to most people of your demographic by at least 10 points. That's telltale sign number one. Telltale sign number two is that you're not really able to expose yourself to the elements. Like literally, it's almost like you have to be bundled up, even if the temperature only changes like 3 degrees. So a good example, like a lot of people tie this to thyroid, which is technically correct. But the reason why your thyroid can underperform is because just getting outside, your body doesn't elicit the response that needs to happen of, hey, it's clearly daylight, let's raise thyroid, right? Because think of it like the omega-3s is a solar panel that's really efficient at collecting sunlight. But if you put a tarp over that solar panel, now it's very poor collecting that environmental information. So you tend to get disturbed really easily with, you may go outside and you get rashes from the sun. You may go outside and you get a rash from cold. You go like, it almost always, when the omega-3 index is that low, it almost always manifests with something going on with your skin or your gut. Because that's where the omega-3s are going to be displaying their outward effects that you can see.
Which usually, like the skin issues or the gut issues, are kind of inflammation, like your body, right? Would that be like
And basically this is what's happening. So your body, all your tissues, all your cell membranes have omegas in them. It's not always omega. Again, omega-3s should be around 10% or so. more of those omegas are omega-6s. So when
Mhm.
it's
Which
when it's
from the
really
fad
high
diet.
omega-6 and very low omega-3s, the omega-6s are being burned up, and that's creating the rash, the inflammatory response. Think of it like I have an omega-3 and an omega-6 oil in a pan, right? So let's forget that they're omega-3s and omega-6s, and let's say that one is butter and one is olive oil, right? If I heat it up at some temperature, the olive oil is going to turn black. It's going to smoke. The butter is still going to continue to be totally fine. That's the difference of omega-6 on your surfaces versus omega-3s. Sun will destroy the omega-6s sooner than the omega-3s, and so will cold. So when you start getting skin problems in a reaction to an environmental stressor like cold or sunlight, you're literally telling me, hey, I have a crap ton of omega-6s that are reacting.
Mhm.
How come my omega-3s aren't taking care of this, right? Because omega-3s are directly anti-inflammatory. That's been proven in lots of studies. Not just for your cardiovascular system, but everywhere that they're at. So, and when omega-3s get broken down, because everything will get broken down by cold or sunlight if you're going outside. There should be. You're designed that way.
Mhm.
The omega-3s get broken down into useful products, and the omega-6s don't get used recycled. They are meant to be thrown out, right? Because you're most people don't know their omega-3 index, or they don't know their omega-3 index to omega-6 ratio. But an average omega-3 to omega-6 ratio is somewhere like 8 to 1, and that's not that good. But that's
Mhm.
Americans. So 8 omega-6s to 1 omega-3. It should be closer to 4 to 1. But most Americans are walking around at 8 to 1 or higher. For example, this guy that I just talked about that has omega-3 index of 2, he has an omega-6 to 3 of 20 to 1. So he's going to experience a whole completely different reaction to every environmental stressor versus somebody who has less omega-6s and more
Interesting.
omega-1s. Yeah.
And would you say, I'm just thinking through like of people I know or even my own children, like I have one child whose skin is way more sensitive and he'll get more like just rashes than my other kids. And he eats, well, I think he actually, now that I think about it, he doesn't like fish as much as the other kids. But
Yeah.
it makes
The
me
other
want to
thing,
get there. Yeah.
especially with children, when they have a nice high omega-3 index, they'll tan really easily and almost never blister.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Even if they have a white complexion, you will notice that, wow, you tanned up really fast for a little kid. And the reason is they have more water and they collect sunlight way easier. And as long as there's enough omega-3s, it breaks down into creating melanin and a darker skin tone almost right away.
Yeah, it almost makes me, I just ordered the omega-3 index test for myself and my husband, but it almost makes me want to order it just out of curiosity to see what my kids are at, because it is just a finger prick, right?
Yeah.
Have you done any of your children, not to get too personal, but like, is that something you've ever
No, I haven't, but my kids literally love
they
salmon. So
eat
like,
like every day?
so
Yeah.
what I do is we get the burger salmon patties from Costco,
Uh-huh.
and we have those for our kids. We have those twice a week. And
Mm,
then I also have an omega-3 pill to supplement. So
right.
I'm glad I said this. So there's a context of when pills are beneficial. When you're
Mhm.
already eating some of the salmon,
So you have
because
those
the coat
cofactors.
are present. So whenever we feed them a salmon meal, they also get an omega-3 pill to go along with it.
Would you do those omega-3 pills on the other days too, or not?
You could, if you're eating it like two or
You're just
three
eating
days out
it
of the week.
regularly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you're probably going to have those cofactors. Those cofactors also exist to a lesser degree, but they also exist in meats, red meats. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So if you have one or two meals throughout the week, ideally 2 or 3 that are the fish, and then you eat red meat at least one meal on the other days, then yeah, supplementing with an omega-3 pill at that point in time will be correctly using the word supplement. You're supplementing that to bring up your omega-3 index.
Mhm.
And yeah, the ones that I have are actual chewable little pills for
Yeah, I
kids.
have the same ones, I think. we're a little hit and miss on them at our house. But I have the same ones and now I can't remember what they're called. I'll look them up,
Yeah.
but they're great. I got them on my Amazon, but I think I've seen them at Target. Target sells them too.
Well, just give me a second. I'll get them right now.
Okay. Yeah, and I think just finding different ways, and we were talking about this. Griffin mentioned it earlier too, about sometimes I'll think of salmon as like my meal, and I'll make a really yummy grilled salmon salad with beets and all of that. And other times I just think of it as like a supplement, like I'm just getting the can, putting some seasoning on it and like scarfing it down. It's not an exciting meal. So, but I'm getting it in and I'm checking that box. Same goes for everything in life. Like sometimes you're having a great workout, you got your music, you're going to the gym. Other times you're just like getting it in your living room and checking the box. So just don't overcomplicate it and just, be willing to keep it simple too and get it in.
These are the ones, hopefully, maybe you can.
Zoom out a hair. Come, maybe bring it back a hair. There we go.
Children's DHA.
Oh, DHA. The Nordic Naturals. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know Nordic Naturals had a children's one, actually. I have Nordic Naturals. That's what I use for myself. So that's great. They're a really good quality supplement.
Yeah, they're just a tiny little pill like this. They get 3 of them, but they're chewable. They don't have to swallow.
Oh, that's cool. Because my kids would not be able to.
And they're great flavored.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I think some of this can feel like really complicated when people hear all of the information, it's hard to absorb it. Do you have any like just words of advice for people that maybe they're not eating any fish, like that you would give?
I would say this, it is essential. So at some point in time, if you're serious about your health, you will need to venture into figuring out a way to get some of this in. There's just not a real way to get around it. It's almost the same as water, right? Like I literally know some people that don't drink water. They don't drink water, right?
Soda all
this
day.
is about this is about on that level, right? It's not quite as much as water because you can survive long periods of time without it, but eventually you end up running your body into the ground to the point where things just don't work because the omega-3 index is so low. And because it forms crucial components of your cell membranes, eventually, this is probably, again, there's a meta-analysis that's came out on the omega-3 index itself. All-cause mortality goes down by 30 to 50% for the next decade of your life if you can maintain your omega-3 index at 8 or higher. That should tell you something about your omega-3 index, about omega-3s in general, and how you want to prioritize that, like you mentioned just before, as a supplement. You want to make sure that that gets consumed in a fairly regular basis so that your omega-3 index stays as close to an 8 as possible. Because all-cause mortality is not just cancer, for example. It's everything. They're taking everything into account. Heart attacks, cancers, Alzheimer's, neurodegeneration. In fact, a lot of neurodegeneration studies are now actually starting to pay attention to what are these cell membranes of these people's brains actually consistent of, how much DHA is in there, what is it, does that change the difference of their electrical activity in their brain? And they're finding that it does. So just that alone is something that you want to pay attention to get in regularly. Again, almost exactly what you said just before this.
Yeah, I think that's helpful to hear because I think a lot of times I'll hear people, I talk about the benefits of fatty fish and I hear people say, oh, but I don't like fish. And it's like, well, same with vegetables, right? We know that's something that we know. We might not love these, but we're going to find ways to incorporate them because we need all these micronutrients in our diet and to stay healthy. Same with fatty fish. Like if you don't like it, find ways to incorporate it because it really is going to benefit you so much. And get an omega-3 index test because that's a really great way to test, like, how am I doing here? Here's some actual data on how you're doing. And once you hit that 8, like you might not need to do as many, the frequency might not need to be as high to maintain that 8 or above status, but shooting for that and having that be a goal is going to benefit you hugely, like David just said. I mean,
and I will add one little bit there. You will find that it's way more effort to bring your omega-3 index up than it is to maintain. as long as you are also mindful of the other things that you have going on in your challenge, of making sure that you get outside, not necessarily for the purposes of outside being beneficial, but for the purposes of inside being deteriorating to DHA. So that's something that people don't know. If your job or lifestyle consistently keeps you indoors because you're inside under fake lighting, you're putting more pressure on deteriorating the DHA, specifically in your eyes and in your brain. Okay. So you will notice, and I've noticed this myself, in the winter, my DHA drops dramatically unless I really bring up my fatty fish intake, like to everyday status. The reason it drops is because I am now more indoors than I am outdoors, which, you know, if I'm in front of a computer, I have lights on, etc., that will accelerate the breakdown of DHA. DHA is meant to be broken down.
Yeah. So just keep getting outside, eat your fatty fish this week, and you guys can complain to us. Let us know if you have any challenges. Like, we'll help you strategize. But hopefully some of the recipes that were sent out will help too. And thank you so much for joining, David. For those of you that haven't had your blood work reviewed by David, that's something we offer too. If you're a one-on-one client, it's included. If you're not, we have a link for you, and you will gain so much like individual knowledge, having him review your blood work and just seeing like what you need to optimize on a personal level too. So thank you for joining. And also, David now has modules on his website. What's your website, David?
Yeah, let me just see if I can bring it up here. It's actually,
Oh, it's on his link. I think it's on his links on his Instagram, the Solar Athlete.
yeah, it's on, so it's on my Instagram, the Solar Athlete, but I'll just drop the link here in the chat real quick as soon as my
That would be
thing
great. And
comes up.
someone just asked for the blood work review link, and I'll add that too. And David, remind me, so when someone when they click on this link to order blood work from you, it will prompt them on how to order the blood work labs through Life Extension and then schedule a call with you, correct?
Yes, yes. So yeah, so if you're gonna do blood work directly, right? Like if they're part of your group, you have
We kind of take care of it for them, but if they're just booking through that link in the chat, then I think it prompts them to order the blood work, which you do it through lifeextension.com. He tells you which test to choose. And then once you get your blood work back, you can schedule a call with him.
Yeah, and there's a video. There's a video at the top of the page.
Perfect. Just watch the video.
And it's literally me talking you through, hey, there's a couple different ways. You can either order it through Life Extension, follow the instructions below. If you're going to take it to your healthcare provider, there's a sample report that you can print off so that you get all the right markers tested, and things of that nature. So it is pretty self-explanatory. Now the link here is also, so the landing page will allow you to book a consultation for some blood work and stuff like that. And it even tells you where you can go for a consultation.
Okay.
But if you scroll down, you will see the individual module. Yep. And those are a video recording that I put together for those. They're intentionally easy to understand on what to do. They're actionables. They're not about the science, right? That, like, how do I get more sunlight, right? What are all the different ways that I can get more sunlight? How do I get better grounding? How do I get more cold exposure? They're the actionables of what to do from the start of your day to the end of your day, like all the different places where you can work this into your lifestyle. They're actionable modules. The science and stuff that's posted on the actual Instagram page, but it's real science. That's the thing. I don't expect everybody to, kind of like what we talked about today, right? I don't expect everybody to understand about omega-3 indexes and cell membranes and how they get incorporated with cofactors and all of that type of stuff. Now that's what's talked about in the posts. The individual posts have most of that information, but the modules, people kept asking me, well, how do I do this?
Right.
You're right. So that's what the modules are there for. If you have a particular question on blue light, how to block blue light, why is it harmful, that type of thing, that module is good for that. There's one that I just put together on grounding and electromagnetism, like EMFs and stuff like that. So
Cool.
there will be more and more of those to come. Some of them are already kind of queued. I just have to go through and actually write the outline and do the video.
Cool. Thank you so much. And if you guys have questions for David, you can find him at the Solar Athlete on Instagram, and then obviously on those links as well. So thank you for joining. And thank
Yep,
you.
you're
everyone
very
else for
welcome.
joining. Have a great week.
Bye.